Okay, this is the video for the video response to the Ken Robinson video. So I'm just going to go through these questions right in order. In what ways do you agree or disagree with Robinson? I'm just going to say first off the bat that I really liked Ken Robinson's video, and I think he had a lot of good things to say. But there were two main questions that kind of bugged me at the end of the video, and the first was, whose job is it to carry out what he proposes? To carry out this radical restructuring of the way we look at schools. Who exactly does he task with doing that? Is he tasking education professionals, university professors that he talked about, public school teachers, administrators? Like who? All of them? I mean, I would just like a little more specificity about that because I don't know. It was ambiguous, and I would love to see changes like he's talking about, and I would agree with the fact that that public schools now stigmatize mistakes, and that it's unfortunate how little the school system has changed since it was originally conceived. As he said, in the early 19th century for the Industrial Revolution, and obviously things are very different now. Like in the case study I did for the last video I did, the discussion part of it after the actual case study talked about the bureaucratic model of schools and what alarm ringing bells in schools and that kind of thing, and that's the thing we need to try and get away from, and that critical pedagogy is trying to get away from that, and that's important. And also in Jonathan Kozl's book The Shame of the Nation, he talks about inner city schools in particular and how little they have changed. In fact, they've kind of gotten worse in some respects. So I would just say I don't disagree with what Robinson is saying hardly at all. I mean, I like what he's saying, although his definition of creativity is an interesting one. He says having original thoughts that have value is a definition of creativity. Which is different than, I don't think Brophy never gives his own definition of creativity, but one of the definitions he gave was David Eliot's, and that in that definition, Eliot separates originality from creativity, and Robinson was clearly implying that one leads to the other. Originality implies or leads to creativity. So I just thought that was a little interesting, and that's something that I'm kind of still. I'm not exactly sure whether I agree more with Robinson or Eliot. I think I'm tending towards David Eliot's point of view, although his reasoning for the separation of originality and what separates originality from creativity is a little ambiguous still to me, but I really like his idea of musicking and his creative, his idea of what musical creativity is about. So that's where I stand on that. Robinson suggests that schools may be teaching students out of being creative. Yeah, I mean, I think that's true to a large extent, but I also think that the creativity thing all goes into what we talk about a lot in critical pedagogy with conscientization. It's like, it's the banking or whatever you want to call it. It's not. It doesn't engage the kids. I think if you're engaging them, you're engaging some. If they're taking a stake in their own learning, that in itself is partially engaging creativity. So I think that's something. It'll work to stimulate creativity. Although, I mean, I said creativity is important, and his claim that creativity should be as important as literacy. I wouldn't disagree with it, but I don't know if I would totally agree with it either. And it's because like I said, he says a lot of good things. It's just I don't see how they'll be carried out. Which is what prompted me to ask the question: whose job is it to carry him out, to carry his goals out? Is it everybody's job? What is? I would love to see it be possible. I just don't see how it can be, because human beings, it's our own nature to resist change. and we have such a complex system in place already, and it would require a change, from the highest echelons of, education administration, from the government, from the Department of Education, and then on down. A single school district can't just decide to, revamp the way they think, and incorporate dance into the everyday curriculum the same way that we teach mathematics. A single school district can't do that. They'll get shut down. Schools are funded by states, and states have to meet standards which are set by national organizations. Things like No Child Left Behind, which, whereas I disagree with it, is still, a law that has to be followed, and a single school district can't circumvent that. It has to come from the very highest echelon. So, he's talking to the people in the high, educational administrative office who have the power to really do those kind of things. It would be nice if individual school districts and individual teachers, had the capacity to make those kind of monumental changes that he's talking about. And I think, what we talk about with critical pedagogy is kind of a way to get toward that type of change, within, you're still operating within the framework. You're not totally rethinking everything, but you are, changing it. So, okay, let's see. What are the issues in music education that are connected to Robinson's views? How might assessment impact the issues Robinson presents? I don't know. I don't really think... I'm having a hard time seeing the connection between creativity and assessment. Assessing creative assignments is one thing, but, he's talking about teaching in general, I think, and how schools are run. He's not talking about assessment per se, I don't think. Assessment is something that tells you whether or not, the creative, environment you've tried to create for your students has been successful, in what you've tried to achieve. It doesn't, as the next question says, I don't think assessment sparks creativity in students. It's a result of, assessment tells you whether or not you have been able to spark creativity in your students via your lessons. So I was a little confused by this last question. If you were Ken Robinson, what might you, I don't know. So, what's that? How am I, So I don't know. That's kind of what I thought. I definitely liked Robinson's video. He's obviously, he really has done his research, and he knows what he's talking about. And I really liked the video. He's a very convincing public speaker. I'll say that he's good. And like I said, I liked it. I would love to see the practical side of it. I would love to try and carry it out and have more of a discussion about exactly how you're going to implement that kind of thing. And I especially like what he talked about with the arts. That was very interesting, and especially when you talk about the hierarchy is that that drama and dance get subjugated even below music and art, which was an interesting thing. And I think it's partially true. And I think. But I think the video is important for people in education to see, because then you'll have exposure to it and you can really go somewhere with it. So, alright, that's it.